What's up, everybody? How's it going? It's Thursday, but we got a little bit of a different broadcast for you today. Unfortunately, my players for Throwdown Thursday, the normally scheduled live stream game that we do, couldn't make it. So I did a little poll on the community page, and people asked for a TTS game. I couldn't find players to get on a TTS game at such short notice, so we were just doing some hobbying instead. That was the second place finisher on the community poll, so it is what it is. It's been one of those days, chat, but I got a lot of stuff to work on, so I figure we can hang out. We can talk about some of the news. Most recently, I know there's already some discussion going on in the chat about the content validity guidelines and Crusher Stampede and all that stuff, and I promise that's what we'll go over today. And I think it's gonna be good. First off, what should I work on today? I have a Harpy. It's about halfway base coated. It's most of the way base coated. Nice little Harpy. I don't know about this Harpy though, chat. I'm just not sure about the Harpies. I also have, I bet I can zoom my camera out a little bit. How are we looking, camera? Let's try to fix this a little bit, see if I can't get more of my space on here. That's a little bit better. Something like this, I guess. All right, nice. I like it. Hope this hobby corner shows me how to get 3 Maliceptors. The beauty of rapid prototyping, chat. That's the additive manufacturing is how you get Maliceptors and Harpies these days. Unfortunately, my camera's a little bit focus happy. Let's see if I can fix that. Stop what you're doing. Stop with this ceaseless focusing. Here we go. Ah. No. It overexposed. Ah. Very nice. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. So I have a Maliceptor I could work on. This is Maliceptor number 2. I already have one. I'm pretty happy with him. He's on a little rock. My other one has claws, has crushing claws, not scything talons, because I think they look better. But this one we decided to do the scything talons. I think I'm pretty happy with how he's come out so far. Mostly just base coating, so I'm like at least nominally fully painted. I also have some Tyrant Guard here. I gave these guys little shoulder pads. They're normally the knee pads, but they got little shoulder pads so that they're closer to the old school metal Tyrant Guard, which are my favorite. The very old ones where they were like a little turtle from 3rd edition. So those are fun. There should be one more of those. Where is he at? Oh, here he is. Ah, nope, he's went all the way across the room. I'm sorry, chat. We might have to go get him. All right, Tyrant Guard, you're off the table for now until your buddy comes back. So if I'm running 3 Hive Tyrants with double Tyrannifex Rupture Cannon, 3 Hive Tyrants. I think 3 Hive Tyrants. We might be jumping the shark with 3 Hive Tyrants. I'm gonna be honest. How about we do this Maliceptor, chat? I'm excited to paint him up because this is probably the model I'm most excited about. There's a non-zero chance that I actually play this Harpy like one time. By the way, I went on Twitter this morning because I was putting together my other Harpy, and I was like, man, because I played them on stream on Twitch yesterday. And every time I play the double Harpy list on stream, the game just sucks because Harpies are broken as fuck. And so I'm here like, do I even want to play these freaking Harpies that I'm spending all this time assembling? And so I put a poll on Twitter about what I should play this weekend, whether I should play the double Harpies or something more interesting. I talked about brain bugs. I talked about... What am I looking for? A paintbrush? I think so. Where did all my brushes go? Oh, they're over here. I talked about Carnifexes, maybe. I would be happy to play any of those. And right now, Harpies are winning, chat. So I'm playing a tournament this weekend that's using the new rules, updated data slate, content validity, all that. And I'll be talking about it on Tactical Tuesday. If you want to throw down your vote, hit me up on Twitter, because that's where my poll is. Twitter.com/TrevorTheGreat. Triple Maliceptor or bust? I'm trying for Triple Maliceptor, chat. I'm pushing for Triple Maliceptor. I think Triple Maliceptor is cool as hell. And I'm this is probably a hot take, but I don't think it's broken. I think if anything's broken, it's Harpies that are broken. I don't think Maliceptors are. Double Exocrine with Terrain effects. Yeah, Chad, I think Exocrines are great. I don't know what this like what this narrative is that Exocrines aren't amazing, because I think that they're very strong. Are Tyrant Guards still viable with the recent FAQ changes? Absolutely. I don't think Tyrant Guard changed that much. I think the one thing that did change was that your list has to play a little bit more aggressively than it did from previous. So, like, you can't just put your Hive Tyrants out front and hope for the best. You have to also put something else out there and make them kill that other thing first. And I think that's fine. So the list that you play has to be a little bit more aggressive. That's one of the reasons I was playing Maliceptors, because the Maliceptor themselves they're very difficult to kill. They have to be very aggressive. I was playing a drop Maliceptor. Might try it without drop Maliceptor, but who knows. I really like the drop Maliceptor, but I understand like some people don't like them. But because the Maliceptors, like, basically they can't afford to backline deploy, they can't really hide very well. They have to move out right up the table, and they have the defensive profile to do it because they're super hard to kill. They're going to be standing in front of where your Hive Tyrants are going to be, which means your Hive Tyrants are going to be getting the Lookout Sir effect. And I think that's great, and I think it's fine. It also helps, I mean, it helps with the Harpies. Like, I was playing Harpies in the list. So I had double Harpy, triple Maliceptor. I don't like the Harpies. I think they're broken. So I don't know if I want to play them really very much. But I think the Maliceptors are cool. And I'm going to keep playing with triple Maliceptor and just see how I feel about it. Like, it's been good so far. The Maliceptors pull a lot of focus. But, obviously I've been doing a lot of damage with Harpies over the course of that. So I guess the Harpies turn into Exocrines and Warriors, maybe some more long-range support. Although right now I am trying to steer away from Zone Thropes, because Zone Thropes are broken. In a bad way. Zone Thropes are mechanically broken and not overpowered. They're still a good unit, but I wouldn't take them in every list at the moment until they get errated. I feel like you always want a Harpy for the Exocrine, rather than an Exocrine. I think there's a universe where you play two Harpies and an Exocrine, for sure. The Harpies, like, they tend to do all their work in the early game, and turn 2 is when your opponent can get to grips with them, and there's a non-zero chance they die after that. But the Exocrine can just sort of just hang out. The Exocrine's much more of like a sustained piece. The Harpies just try to like alpha several times, basically. But the Exocrine's so much harder to deal with that, because he can be obscured and he's a really good defensive profile. T8 to up save, 15 wounds, like what a boss. He's also always near your defensive buffs and stuff, because he's going to be near Venom Thropes every time. You're not, he's not leaving. He's not going anywhere. But I mean, if you're trying to play like strictly competitively, I think you always start with like two Harpies probably. But I don't know. I hope they get nerfed. I think they're way too good. Definitely too cheap for what they do, in my opinion. They cost like less than a Fusilov. I think they cost less than a post-nerf Fusilov too, because Fusilovs went up in points at one point. I think they started at 160, and they went up to, they're like post 200 now. And Harpy's the same, but like is harder to kill and has more guns. It's wild. and is better in melee and is like better support. It's literally insane. Could I speak a bit to Zoanthropes? Only had one game so far. They are more broken than Maliceptors. Or are they more broken than Maliceptors? So they're very good from a damage standpoint. D3 plus 3 damage smite with plus 3 to cast is really solid. And I think that there is an argument to take them just as, like, take them in multiples as a damage dealer. The problem is that alongside Maliceptors, like, they're, you know, it's almost as much as a Maliceptor. Their range is a little bit longer, but not, like, appreciably so. And they're much easier to kill. They're only 12 wounds at T5 in a unit versus 15 wounds at T8. But they are infantry and they fly, so there's, like, you know, you win some, you lose some. The weird part with them and Maliceptors is that if the more you spam smite, the less impactful your smites become, because your opponent has, you know, basically has control over what gets smited, because they can elect to put things in smite range or not. And you start to sort of get in your own way. So if you have too many, like, closest thing takes X damage effects, you're just going to start vaporizing everything in range of you, and then, like, you have a lot of these attacks that are just going nowhere. So it's not like Zoanthropes have an 18-inch range gun. They have an 18-inch range effect that hits the closest thing, and your opponent gets to kind of dictate what that is. Which is why to be fair, why I didn't like Zoanthropes in the past. But the fact that their ability deals so much damage now that, you know, alongside the other mortal wounds in the psychic phase that Tyranids have, they just kind of overpower a lot of defensive positioning against mortal wounds. The downside is that, like, you don't really need them with a Maliceptor, because a Maliceptor is going to deal, or multiple Maliceptors is going to deal so much damage in that same range band that they're just, everything like that could get hit by a smite is going to be dead. And they don't bring anything particularly unique besides them. Now, the reason I say that they're, like, mechanically broken in a like a, you know, rules way is that they don't have the synapse keyword. So they don't provide a synaptic imperative. They don't extend your chain, your synaptic link chain. They don't, they do give you fearless because they have the special rule that gives fearless, but they don't actually have the synapse, the correct keyword to do it, which is shitty. So if you are not building, so like right now it's hard to build a list that that relies on warp shielding, because they technically don't have warp shielding, or they don't provide warp shielding. But I honestly, like, they're fringe playable just as a unit themselves until that gets repaired. How do I feel about the power level of the Codex? Yeah, I think some builds, I think, like, it's head and shoulders the best Codex in the game, full stop. Like, hard stop. It is the best, right? Beyond that, I think it's in line with the power of the top codexes. So Custodes, Harlequins, Tau Empire, pre-Data Slate. So it's basically a codex that, like, is meant to exist in the pre-Data Slate environment, and now every other codex has been nerfed, and this Tyranid codex is the same, which means that they're just, like, head and shoulders the best. Now, I think if you're worried about that, and you're like, oh man, you know, it feels bad to play this codex because it's so powerful, I do think that there is the benefit of the Tyranid codex, and it's been well designed in this way, is that if you play a suboptimal army, I don't think that you're really hamstringing yourself. It's not like a, you know, you could build Tau armies where you would build, you know, not triple broadside or not storm surges or not farsight or whatever, and you would just fall apart. I think that the Tyranid codex is super deep, in the stable of units that can get played, and it has a lot of like legitimately good strategies. And I think in that way it's good because it could survive an errata. I think right now it needs an errata because the most powerful stuff in the faction is too powerful, but the rest of the faction I think is pretty solid. But it also is good because if you don't want to play the most powerful stuff, you don't have to. And I think that's the direction I'm going to go in. I don't think I'm going to play Harpies anymore. I think like the Psychic Phase stuff is really cool, but again, it's slow and short-ranged, and you're relying on expensive drop pods that give up points to deliver it. I think the Hive Tyrant stuff is cool, but again, like you pay this premium for Tyrant Guard and multiple detachments and stuff like that. You can play like the Hormigant Alpha Strike, and there's a lot of opportunity cost there for that because you give up your adaptive ability for Synaptic Goading. So there are different ways you can play that are less powerful but more interesting, and I think that's good. But in terms of just sort of raw holistic power level, it's hands down the best codex in the game right now. It's not even close. And that's post content validity update, right? So like without Leviathan, without Crusher Stampede, turns out they found a way to make this the best faction. Not a huge fan of the Maliceptor model? Oh, no. You can take it to buff other stuff. Its imperative is, like, sort of sneaky good. You usually use it on one of the turns that you're trying to combo off with it. So, like, in Leviathan, you get two turns to combo with it because you can give it both imperatives. Although, when it's not comboing, it's still fine, and you're probably going to cast +1 to cast on it anyway. So there are situations where, I played a game on stream yesterday where the synaptic link or this imperative that lets you fall back and do actions and shoot and do actions was actually a really big deal because it let all my warriors banners up on the bottom of turn 1 and also shoot guns, which was awesome actually. So I think its imperative is still strong. I think, its psychic casts are still really good. The fact that it's 2 casts and it's on a really resilient body is just really pretty sick. I have a brush that I'm looking for now. I can't find it. No, I'm very sad. So I think there's a lot of use cases for the Maliceptor beyond just comboing off with the Mortal Wounds, but it's mostly there for the Mortal Wounds. The other effects that it has are kind of secondary. I don't know where my brush went. That's okay. We'll make do. So what I want to do is just do a little bit of touch up on some of the dark green here, which I messed up. What are some options within the Codex that I call good but not broken? I think that the Carnifex list, like the Monster Mash list, where you take like Behemoth or Kronos. There's a cool Kronos like Flamer spam list you could play. That's taking like Acid Spray, Tyrannifexes, and Pyrovores and stuff, and even maybe Scythe Hierodules. And you just try to take as many like auto-hitting weapons as possible, and you just deal massive damage that hits automatically, which is sick. Plus, you're also like good in melee. And the big upside of that is that all of those Flamer monsters you can get objective secured with the Lurk Biomorphology. You can play like Carnifexes and Behemoth with Lurk Biomorphology to give them objective secured. I think that's really strong. Like I said, I think any of the small, like the 1 wound model focus lists are good, but not great. So like some people have been floating lists that are a bunch of Gene Stealers, and you just try to play this alpha strikey game. This was sort of more like board control focused scenario play game. I think that's like good but not broken. I think the Hormigant list is good but not broken. You could probably play like Termagant Swarms. And I think Termagants are just sort of like hands down terrible, but like you can buff them and get them to do a lot of damage. And that's fine. I don't think that they're, from a competitive standpoint, they're not worth the investment in my opinion, but It's not like if you're building to be just playable, then you can like do a Termagant combo with. You can give them like +1 to hit, 6s auto wound, exploding 6s, and full rerolls. So they hit on 3s, rerolling everything, and then 6s do additional hit and auto wound, and at +1 strength. And you can fit a +1 AP in there. I don't know, it's not as good. It's probably in Leviathan. So like those are good, or that, you know, that's something, right? But I think like the cool thing about the Codex is there's so many different directions you can go in. Whether or not they're like the best thing in the world, I mean they're not. That's why we're talking about them. But like the combos are there and they're available to be used. As a non-Tyranid player, do I think you should worry about Tyranids being overpowered during both casual and competitive games, or just competitive games? I think that the list, the best, like the super busted stuff in Tyranids is kind of chicanerous. So like, the Tyranid player has to be like pushing to like, you know, they have to play this like kind of competitive combo list to be broken. Otherwise, I think they're just very good. I think they're very good and they're very synergistic, which you know, you could have trouble against if you're playing a faction like you know, with an old Codex or with less powerful stuff. But in general, I think if they take like sort of a non-standard build, they can, you know, they work fine compatibility, or like they're compatible with kind of non-competitive play. Because there's like a really deep, you know, there's a deep stable in the Codex. There's a lot of stuff that you can try, and that's really interesting and cool. How would I nerf the Harpy? I like the model, but it feels mad to play at the moment. I think you need to up its points. It needs to be at least 200 points, if not more. And you need to make Encircle the Prey usable once per turn and not be able to target aircraft. I think that is... Those are the fixes. It's stupid, honestly, that you can target them with it. Double Hive Tyrant build would be very popular. Double Hive Tyrant build, very good. I agree. You could take, like, Foot Hive Tyrants if you're trying to play, like, not less competitive. I think Foot Hive Tyrants are kind of fun. Foot Melee Hive Tyrants, too. Or just, like, they do more damage than the Flying Hive Tyrant, but they're, like, super slow and can't really... They, like, trade with things. They don't play the keep away game, and that's the feel bads, right? Is the keep away game. But like otherwise, if Tyranids are just like, oh, I'm gonna run into the middle and we're gonna have a big fight with my ground troops, then it's actually kind of an interesting, you know, you can play against almost anything, and you're just trading blows with them. This is too thick paint. I need to water my paints more. Playing double Tyrant, do I find yourself wanting more CP? I actually don't. And I think, I mean, that's a symptom of having this, like, the CP like bleeds nerfed. You know, like previously Crusher Stampede was kind of a bleed. Like you would be bleeding for transhumans, and you would be bleeding for, it was 2 CP for Crusher Stampede transhuman. You like wanted to breaking through every turn, you wanted to hive mind imperative every turn. Sometimes you double tapped Tyrant Guard, like a lot of times you would be relentless flurrying. So like you had this bleed of like 4 CP a turn out of the standard Crusher Stampede build, and you don't have that anymore. The stratagems are much more on a kind of use case basis, I guess. So I never feel like, oh, the list has to use this stratagem right now, otherwise it falls apart. Whereas Crusher Stampede, like previously, Tyranids were like, I have to double shoot my Tyrant Guard, my Hive Guard right now, because if this unit survives, I might lose. And the new Tyranids don't have anything like that. Like, their profiles are better, their generic damage is better, but their stratagems are way worse. I think, and it feels good, actually. So, like, in my game against Fushini last night, I was encircling and overrunning every turn. So I was spending 2 to 3 CP on the first two turns of the game. But I didn't have really anything else to do because I was playing Leviathan, so I had Transhuman built in. So I didn't need to spend for Transhuman. I spent a couple CP to keep Warriors alive with Reinforced Hive Node, but other than that, I wasn't sort of needing to spend CP. So I think I had 4 CP on turn 3, which should be fine. What is my favorite Tyranid model of all time? Not performance, just best looking? That's a good question. Oh man, it's always Hive Tyrants, right? Like, I like playing Hive Tyrants. I like freaking looking at Hive Tyrants. They're so cool. It's a big dragon guy. I have a soft spot for the plastic Carnifex kit, but I think that's mostly nostalgia. Because I remember when reading like the original Warhammer articles when it was spoiled, because they used to do blog articles, or they used to do like hobby guides and stuff on the website, and they did guides on like how diverse the kit was and how many pieces there were in it, and I really appreciated like the level of customization involved. Like, you should never have 2 Carnifexes that look the same, basically, because there's so many pieces in the box, and I really liked that. But it's probably a Winged Hive Tyrants for me. Shout out as well to Harry Dan. Like, you gotta throw Harry Dan a bone in there. Regardless of whether or not he's good in the new Codex, that model looks amazing. And the number of people that, like, when you're playing in a tournament or whatever, and there's, like, non-Warhammer people around, and they're just, like, they come over to your table, and they're just like, what the fuck is going on here? Is that, like, an actual unit you can use in the game? And you're like, yeah, dude. It's like a big super heavy dragon, bro. Isn't it cool? And they're like, whoa. It's like you know, it's eye-catching. So, I don't know if that's as much about the model quality as it is the sheer size of it, but Harry Dan's good for that. I think I gotta put my vote down for Hive Tyrants, though. I love Hive Tyrants, man. Don't know how you build a flamer list for Chronos. Is it like 9 power 4-side Tyranids, some Carnifexes? I think that almost anywhere you can stick a flamer on top of a Tyranid monster is a good place to be. That's solid. So, you know, Hierodul's solid. You can get them to AP3. They shoot 22 inches. Similar for Tyranifexes, like Acid Spray Tyranifexes are pretty good. Did I get goop on this guy's little claw here? Oh no, it's just, oh, I got some paint on it, that's why it looks funny. So I think it's mostly those units is like where I would start. A lot of times you can kind of just like play normal stuff. I think a lot of Tyranids tend to be kind of high fleet agnostic. Like, you can play just Carnifexes, and then you can have kind of a sub-theme of the Flamer stuff. Like, honestly, you know, maybe there's a spot, I guess maybe not so much in the era of Armor of Contempt, but maybe there's a place for, like, Devour Carnifexes, because they get +1 AP when they're at half range, and they shoot 22, so within 11, they get +1 AP, and you can onslaught them to advance and shoot to get the extra distance up there. Plus, you can give them rerolls. Like, you can give them Swarmlord rerolls, which is kind of sick. Screamer killers benefit from the extra range, which is nice. And then you can also make the, you know, all the Carnifexes OBSEC, so your Screamer killers are still they're just better than normal Carnifexes. And then they're backed up by, like, OBSEC Tyranifexes and OBSEC other stuff. I think that, like, that's probably the direction I would go in. So I wouldn't go, like, all in on Flamers. I think, like, a couple Pyrovores, a couple Tyrannifexes, a couple Carnifexes, and then, like, you switch into Objective Secured as your adaptive trait. I think that's pretty solid. Half Lotus Music was my game on stream. Which game were we talking about? The game yesterday? I did play on stream yesterday. It's on the Twitch channel. If you're a Twitch subscriber, twitch.tv/TacticalTortoise, then you can go watch it. It's been a little quiet over on Twitch, or at least I don't want to say over on Twitch, but getting pickup games right now, because I think the state of balance is kind of has kept a lot of people away. More recently, it's been hard to find people to play with, which has been unfortunate. So we did a little bit of hobbying earlier this week on stream. I did a little bit of game playing. Do I think mass free units could be a thing with Turbogon, Parasite, Mortrex, Harpy, Gestation Sacks? I don't know. I think that the free units are nice as like an additional benefit to a unit that you're already taking. Like I think Gestation Sacks are pretty okay because you can just add like an objective holder somewhere in your army, which is like wherever you need it, which is pretty cool. I would almost never bank on Parasite of Mortrex, like, you know, actually getting a free unit off of the parasites. Like, it happens every once in a while, but I mean, I talked about it in the Parasite of Mortrex video. It's not always useful to you because sometimes you give your opponent the ability to charge, and then you're just like, well, fuck, this sucked. Or you like give them a grind them down, right? Like if I'm looking at a Tyranid list and it's got like Parasites of Mortrex and Tyrannifexes, or Turvagons, excuse me, and a bunch of ways to get additional Ripper Swarms and stuff. Plus, it's already like, you know, it's already got like a bunch of units of 3 models, like 3 Warriors and 3 Zoanthropes and 3 Venomthropes and all this like little tiny MSU style units. I'm like, wow, grind them down is going to be sick. This is going to be awesome. And then suddenly your free models become a liability to you. So I think, personally, I wouldn't go out of my way to make a list that's entirely contingent on getting 3 models. But what I would do is include those units in an army that already wants them. So like the Parasite is good because it removes Obsec, and it's good because it can like, you can like smite characters with Enfolding Strike. You can make it like a little buff bot who runs around really fast. He's a good like Synaptic Link chainer. And then the ability to get free Ripper Swarms is occasionally pretty useful. I think at Turvagon, there are lists, and maybe even the Obsec list we were just talking about, the Obsec Monsters list we were just talking about, where you can make a Turvagon impossible to kill, and with Relics and Warlord traits, and it also gives you 10 free models on an objective. And it itself can get objective secured a bunch of different ways. So it doesn't, you know, need those Termagants to have objective secured. So it just uses the Termagants as a way to like, you know, maintain hold on an objective or something. And I think like those are really interesting. But I don't know if there's like really, you know, if it's like super useful to just like try to pile in every one of those abilities you can. Is a double Maliceptor list worth it? I've been liking it. I've been liking double and triple Maliceptor. I don't know if it will. I think if you're like, I don't know, do I buy a second Maliceptor? Like, do I go all in on the Maliceptors or whatever? I would maybe consider waiting and seeing if they get nerfed, because I think there's, you know, there's enough like public outcry about them that there's a small chance they get nerfed. I don't think they're certainly not the most broken thing in the Codex, but I think it could change. Like Psychic Overload could go to once per turn or something. And then suddenly Maliceptor's not quite as good anymore. Probably still fine actually though. But yeah, I don't know. I'd keep your ear to ground. If you have everything else and you're thinking of playing 2 Maliceptors, then I would do it. I would give it a try. I really like them. Can I give more thoughts on the removal of stratagems? So as a casual player, I forget to use them a lot of the time. I think if you want to, like, if you and your opponent are playing casually and you want to say, hey, for this game, you know, as we're learning the mechanics of the game, do you want to play without stratagems? And then, like, you layer them back in. You know, maybe you play a game without stratagems, then maybe you play a game with very basic, like, you just play the core rulebook stratagems, and then you start to play more and more of the stratagems and stuff like that. I think that that's fine. But there is a camp of people who are like, oh, stratagems should be removed from 40k because they're bad for the game. And I think those people are wrong. I think that's a stupid opinion to have. 40k without stratagems is, like, not even really a game. It becomes much more about, like, just the mathematic efficiency of your data sheets, and not, like, using those data sheets in addition to other abilities in interesting ways. Like, stratagems is like how 40k gamifies itself. And if you remove stratagems from 40k, the game is entirely about, like, target priority. And there's like, movement. And there's very little else that, like, makes into, like, each turn interesting. I would go so far as to say, you know, if like 10th edition came around the corner and they were like, we're removing stratagems and not replacing them with anything, I would strongly consider stopping playing 40k. But I understand that it can be, like, a cognitive load if you're new to miniatures games, and it's, like, a lot to learn. And I think that removing them, you know, either in your learning games or until you understand the best cases to use them, I think is totally acceptable. Definitely understandable. Speaking of which, though, so the thing I was doing literally just before this stream, and what I'm actually very excited about, is I did a video on, I'm editing a video on going through every single stratagem in the Tyranid Codex, or all the core stratagems, and it's probably going to be about 40 minutes long, so get ready for that. And I talk at length about use cases and my thoughts about all of the different stratagems. That should be live for patrons tonight, and should be premiering tomorrow. So if you want to hear me talk about Tyranid stratagems, get hyped for that. I'm pretty happy with how the thing came out. The video's coming out so far. I've lovingly crafted it, and I'm excited because it was something that a lot of people were asking me about, and I'm excited to give my thoughts. I think there's some good thoughts about combos and stuff like that. There's also some stratagems in the Codex that are, like, really people didn't think out very far. But I'll talk about those in the video. Didn't even know I had a Twitch. Yeah, so I Twitch. I stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, typically around 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Usually I do games. I'll do commentary sometimes if games are going on, and I'll do painting, but very occasionally. Mostly it's games, and those go to a separate YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/TacticalTortoiseTV. You can find there's links to all of those in all of my video descriptions. So if you check those out, and there's also a link to the Tactical Tortoise TV channel over in the main channel if you go down to the bottom. So you can go, I don't know. Give me a follow. It's a good time. We have a good time over there. I just streamed here Tuesday, Thursday for a Tactical Tuesday and ThrowdownThursday. Drew Lytle had second ever tournament last Saturday with Khorne Demonkin. Lost all 3 rounds. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry. Well, welcome to the competitive scene. I'm glad you're having a good time with the tournaments. Khorne Demons is a tough one. I wouldn't take it personally. If you're having trouble winning with them, a lot of people are having trouble winning with Khorne Demons right now, because the downside of the army is that they're super one-sided, and that they are they only operate in the fight phase really, and they don't really do anything else. They don't have a lot of other tools, and they don't like synergize particularly well with the other Chaos sub-factions outside of like Crimson Crown combo. And even then, it's not really a Khorne Demon thing. It's mostly one Khorne guy with one relic who stands next to a bunch of Iron Warriors. So I wouldn't take it too hard. But Chaos, I think Chaos is going to be a pretty good place. Like, if you're a new player and you're trying to get into the game, Chaos, because they're getting so many new codexes pretty shortly, is, I think, a good place to get into the game from a flexibility standpoint, because it looks like they're going to try to be kind of maintaining Chaos as more of a super faction than like a set of individual factions. Because we've seen things like that, Chaos Knights rule, where you can take Chaos Knights in other Chaos armies and they don't break sub-faction abilities and stuff. And so hopefully we see stuff like that between Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Demons, for example. And then if you start Chaos Space Marines, you can bring in Chaos Demons and you can bring in Chaos Knights and you can really branch your collection out, which should be fun. Hopefully those all stick around. I'm not saying that those are set in stone, but I'm saying that's what it looks like. Diego de Silva ran 1,000 points, 60 gargoyles, all flying. That sounds freaking awesome. 60 gargoyles is cool. I have to run more gargoyles. I will say that's a personal failing of mine. I haven't played enough gargoyles yet. Despite the fact that they're really good and their stratagems really good. Yeah, it's all good. Sneedler, TTS sucks. You suck, Sneedler. Get out of here. What are you doing? Elite slot is really tight in Tyranid lists. 100%. Elite slot is the tightest. Is the tightest slot. I thought it was gonna be heavy support, but I think that was because because I was taking too many card effects. I was always like, I gotta fit as many card effects in all my lists as possible. And then I would take like double Exocrine or something and be like, how I don't have any heavy support slots anymore? What the heck? But that was silly for me. Yeah, I've been finding more and more that it's elite slots that you're having trouble with, especially since Tyranids are almost always run off patrols now. I felt. If you play battalions, if you play single Hive Tyrant and you play battalion, it's probably much easier because you get 6. But you only get 4 in double patrol, and I've never been able to squeeze more than 6 in with all the free slots you get. The biggest issue I've had with the triple Maleceptor lists I've been running is that I don't have any Pyrovores. And that's friggin' sucks. It's hardcore. Overboard, are Raveners any good? Yeah, Raveners are sweet. They make a million attacks. And they're core keyworded and they're very fast. So you can take a Death Spitter on them, and then a set of Scything Talons in addition. And their base profile makes 5 attacks, plus they get the 2 attacks from the Death Spitter. And depending on how you sort of calculate your attacks, right? If Raveners are popping out of cover to attack someone, they shoot 3 times, then they charge. And they attack 7 times in the fight phase. So they, over the course of a single battle, a single player turn, they attack 10 times, which is fucking wild for 30 points a model. Plus, they're hard to kill. They're 4 wounds each, T5 with -1 to be hit in melee. Like, sometimes they just don't die. They're really solid. I played a game with them the other day. They they moved out on the table. They almost killed a Dreadnought in shooting. And then, because we had all the buffs on them, +1 to hit, reroll 1s to hit, exploding 6s, reroll 1s to wound, I think. And they did significant damage to a Dreadnought. They didn't kill it, but they did like 7 or 8 or something. Which, to be fair, a little bit above average. And then they charged and they killed a bunch of dudes, and then they got charged back by a bunch of dudes and they didn't die because they were -1 to hit, to be hit, and they like interrupted and fought back and killed like a bunch of characters or something. It was pretty brutal. The single unit Raveners blew up like the entire game. But I think also you could just take like 1 unit of 3. They're sort of warriors with extra steps. They're more expensive and they don't have OBSEC, but they're faster and tougher and better at scoring objectives and stuff. So I think Raveners are very good. Mr. Biochronic, thoughts on the data slate? I did a video on the data slate. You can go check that out. But I think it was good. Good data slate. Favorite people lately are increasingly saying should have no stratagems in 40k, need to return to universal special rules. I think, I mean, we certainly should return to universal special rules, right? That's just obvious at this point. Now that they're effectively putting universal special rules in FAQs, like it's clear that they're, you know, the design of these new rules are basically a mea culpa of removing USRs, because they're like, fight first is now like codified as a special rule, bodyguard is now codified as a universal special rule, indirect fire is now codified as a universal special rule. So I would, you know, plus we already got blast, so I would be shocked if a new edition tick didn't return USRs. The game is just, it's too dysfunctional without them. So I agree with that. Removing stratagems, though, I mean, I'll stand by. I don't think 40k is even a game without stratagems. Like, nothing happens in 40k. You know, suddenly there's no interaction. There's no, you know, like when you think about like, oh, what do stratagems bring to the game? Well, they bring like the suspense of command rerolls and like saving or using your command reroll for that phase. They bring like resource management. They bring, you know, even just like fight phase interrupts. They bring defensive stratagems and playing around defensive stratagems and holding up defensive stratagems. They bring, you know, offensive combos. Like, 40k sucks without stratagems. Like, it's just bad. I think what they should do is they should create a format that does not use stratagems. You know, like we said, for the people who want to learn the base mechanics of the game but don't want to like play with all of the complexity, and that should be a separate thing, like power level, maybe, you know. Like maybe the format that uses power level also doesn't use command points or has like a very limited pool of command points and stratagems and stuff like that. But all these people who are like, we should remove stratagems for 40k, you no longer want to play 40k. What you want to do is like play chess with that's easier and your opponent, like, you know, there's no chance you play a grandmaster and get killed in 2 turns. You just want to play like bad chess, basically. It's no good. Jonathan DeLeo playing first RTT with new Codex on Sunday. Any tips into Knights? Man, I feel bad for Knights right now into Tyranids, I think. Just kind of do your thing for the most part. Like, even Warriors and stuff are dangerous to Knights currently. I think mainly don't give them too much stuff to shoot at. Because, you know, if you give them shots on your squishy stuff, then they'll kill it, and that'll be sad. If they're shooting at your tough stuff, they're gonna have a tough time getting through because you can layer -1s to hit and transhuman and vulnerable saves, and those are just like stuff that Knights don't have a great time into. And
I don't mind USR as an idea, but people lose me when they say 7th edition should be the benchmark for USR. The only thing 7th edition should be a benchmark for is what a dumpster fire looks like.
Lyle, thanks for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, well, I think 7th edition, I mean, I didn't play 7th edition, so I can't you know, go off expouting all of, you know, formulating too many opinions about it. But from what I understand, the issues with 7th edition were like kind of, you know, over and above like the core mechanics of the game. It was like psychic powers and combos, right? Like you comboed too hard. But like universal special rules are just rules that are codified in a single place, and I think that you can, you know, that in and of itself shouldn't have bearing on the balance of the game. But going back to Jonathan's question, I think you can, you just like, yeah, I don't know. You just don't give the knights too many squishy things to shoot at. They have to shoot your tough stuff. They'll have trouble killing it. And then you can deal with really crippling damage to knight profiles with like Hive Tyrants and stuff like that. Dustin Matney, looking for some advice. Painting Tyranids. They want them xenomorph themed. You can do a lot of like, you just highlight black up to white basically. To make them look really shiny. You can also use like gloss coating to make them look shiny as well. There's a lot of xenomorph themed Tyranids on the internet you can find that what I think would explain the technique better than I do. Maliceptor looks like a squig from above. He is like a squig. Maliceptors are cute boys. I like them. they just look so silly. which I appreciate. Look at this little guy. This little chunky fellow. Super fun. If you recall correctly, there were 10 pages of USR keywords. Yeah, I guess like that's probably too many, right? You don't need that many. But, you know, you could probably pick 15 and USR them, and then you don't need to do those anymore. What 15 would we pick? If we could pick like 5 weapon keywords, right? You'd have indirect fire, blast, sniper. Would be like targeting characters, like targeting, you know, through Lookout Sir. Is that really all you need for like? And I guess like maybe like a rending, like a 6s are extra damage, like 6s are extra AP or something. Like codify that because there's a lot of factions that use it and it's all slightly different. And then like for regular USRs, like Feel No Pain is the one that people always talk about. Fight First, Fight Last should be. They should be USR'd, and then the rules should say that you fight as if like you had those abilities, right? Or vice versa, either way. And then like advancing and charging, maybe? I don't know. You don't need that many. Deep striking should be USR'd. And like bodyguard, obviously. It's most of them. Like I don't think, you know, somebody's gonna be like, oh, you can USR everything and that'll be fine. You're like, oh, you don't need to do that. Like Demon used to be a universal special rule, and it gave you a 5+ invuln save, and you're just like, just say 5+ invuln save. But back in the day, they used to invuln saves were only ever contributed with a special rule or a piece of board gear. You never had them like built into your ability.
7th edition highlights. 3 Riptides in a Leviathan army. A psychic spell where you could pick up terrain with your models on it and move it across the board. An entire army that could only be hit on 6s. Good riddance.
Lyle, thanks for the $20, man. I really appreciate it, dude. I have heard stories of the Riptides in, or there was a, what was it? There was like a demon summoning specialist detachment, right? Where you could like any faction could take it and you could summon demons, and like Tau could be doing it or whatever, and you're just like, what? That's so stupid. But I heard horror stories about the terrain with models on it. So you would put a bastion in your army, and then you would like mount a knight on top of the bastion, and then you would move the bastion. That's dumb. And then like invisibility, right? Gave your opponent had to snap fire at you, which is made you only hit on 6s, and then you could make like one huge Death Star and make them only hit on 6s. It's very dumb. Half Lotus Music, think Kraken is super slept on. I don't disagree with you. The problem is that, in my opinion anyway, you trade, like, Kraken is good at setting up these like really powerful pieces, but the pieces are so much less powerful in Kraken that it matters less that you have set them up, if that makes sense, right? So like, You could be like, oh man, if I opportunistic advance a frickin' Maleceptor, I can add automatic 8 inches to the threat range of the Maleceptor combo. Except you don't have a Maleceptor combo. You're in high fleet level like Kraken. You're not in Leviathan. So you're like, oh, that sucks. Well, it's okay, because I can like add 8 inches to the threat range of Hive Tyrant or whatever. And that's very good. Don't get me wrong. Hive Tyrants are great, but they're better if they're in Behemoth, right? Or like a Carnifex in Behemoth is better, because they can use the psychic power for +1 to wound and their upsec or whatever. And so it's like Kraken's good. Like the threat range in Kraken's good, but that's all you get out of it is only the threat range. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I should play with it though. It's probably fine. What units would be best in Kraken? You take like, you play double Flyrant for sure. Maybe that's even the list where you play Foot Hive Tyrants. No, probably not. The +1 AP, what benefits the +1 AP most? I guess AP 4 is pretty good because you cut through a 3+ armor save automatically now. And you'd want like AP 2 and 3, I think, to get the biggest oomph out of it. So like warriors, maybe just warrior bricks. But again, they're like better in Leviathan because the Kraken is like, we can get you there faster, and Leviathan's like, yeah, but we can get you there with more because you won't be dead. So I don't know. Raveners, I guess. We just talked about how good they were. Probably Raveners, right? You can move 20 and then charge with all of your attacks. Yeah, that's probably the way to go. It's like super fast stuff. So it's Raveners and Hive Tyrants, I bet, is the game plan. I'm into it. All right, we solved it. Raveners. Let's do it. Do I think Marines are too strong with Armor of Contempt? No, not even close. I mean, Fushini and I talked about this on stream yesterday, but like Marines are good, but they're taking less damage, but they're not doing more damage. And in fact, against the upper echelon of armies, they're doing less damage than they were because they because those armies are harder to kill, right? So like, if you talk about Marines fighting against pre-Codex Tyranids and now post-Codex Tyranids, Marines did significantly damage against the previous version of Tyranids. So, like, they're just, it kind of keeps up with the new codexes, but I don't think it doesn't move their needle at all, right? Because like everybody has shifted up, and some factions haven't. I know we were talking on Tuesday about like Orcs and Necrons, which like didn't get any buff in the data slate, and so those players are sad. And I mean, I get that, it's fine, but like for the most part, it's just keeping them up in their same position that they were, which is like probably middle of the road. But I don't think it makes them broken at all, not even close. Are Dimacarons good now? Unfortunately, I don't think Dimacarons are very good, to be honest. They suffer the same problems that they did in the previous version, which is that they are 18 wounds, and so they can be seen over buildings. Or they don't get the benefit of obscuring, I should say. But they lost their double move. So, like, it used to be that you'd be like, aha! My Dimacaron will die if it goes second, because you'll shoot it with 1,000 guns, and it will be exploded. But if I go first, it will charge you on turn 1. But now it won't be charging you on turn 1, so it's just chills. And it, it doesn't have Crush or Stampede anymore. It's doing less damage than it was. You don't have, you can Physiology it, but, like, I don't know what you give it. So, I don't think that they're very good. Not for 280. If it was still like 235 or whatever it was at the start of IAC, I think I would consider them, but not for 280. They're way too expensive. How am I expecting this matchup into Sororitas to play out with the new Armor of Contempt? The Between that and Shield of Faith, they seem problematic. Sororitas have always been kind of good into Tyranids. Because Tyranids, at least the most recent versions, there are sometimes you gave them fits because you would like Hive Guard them. But at least the most recent versions of Tyranids have more focused on like using big scary monsters, and Sororitas have always been good at killing big scary monsters. So I don't imagine that changes. And the fact that Sororitas' whole thing is about trading up and then like randomly not dying sometimes is probably similarly impactful. So I think that, I mean, Tyranids are probably still advantaged now just given the strength of the faction. But, like, you just have to make sure you don't, like, don't mess up, basically. Because Sororitas can capitalize on it. So I'm not going to say that, like, I think Sororitas are advantaged into Tyranids, or, you know, currently. We just played that on ThrowdownThursday last week, and it was kind of a brutalizing for the Sororitas. But as they get more honed in, I think they'll figure it out. But I mean, it looks like they might be angling to play Valorous Heart, which could be, you know, difficult to chew through, although their points per wound is pretty high, so I don't know how much that matters. Can you get a live ruling on if you can advance and teleport Swooping Hawks? Maybe. I don't believe that you can, because the teleport replaces battle focus move, and you can't battle focus if you've advanced. But let's look. So Swooping Hawks say, instead of making a battle focus move with this unit, you can remove it from the battlefield and set it up again anywhere on the battlefield. Battle focus says, this unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced. And then is treated as remaining stationary. After it has finished making its attacks, unless it fell back or moves its turn, it can make a battle focus move. So you do not get the battle focus move if you advanced. And that being the case, you cannot replace it with a Sky Leap. That is my final verdict. Austin, yay. New player building a Raven Guard army. Could I give you any tips with the recent changes? Yeah, so Raven Guard, you really want to Raven Guard always want to focus on their pregame, basically. So their forward deployment and redeployment stuff. So like, you want to build a big unit that you can Master of Ambush into an annoying place. And you want units that can abuse the infiltrators, like pregame move. So either fast guys who can use it to like turn one alpha strike people, or guys who can use it to like sort of redeploy into annoying places. So they've always been good with forward deploying stuff because they can use the forward deploying stuff to, they can use the pregame move to either like move the forward deploying stuff into a safer position on turn one if they go second, or use it to like alpha strike if they go first. And then the Master of Ambush gives you redeploy, which is super nice. And then they're good. They like big Vanguard veteran squads or whatever, because you can use the charge bonus or the advance and charge strat on them. Whatever it's called, Raven Strike or something. So I would focus on those units to start with. I would be prepared though, like mentally prepare yourself for your go first win rate to be like significantly better than your go second win rate, because that is like the classic Raven Guard problem. is they're always like, okay, I went first. Like, I'm gonna teleport 1,000 points of my army into your face, and then like we're gonna push you back, and now my dudes who can infiltrate deep strike are like on turn 2, like we get rid of all your screens, and then my infiltrate deep strike stuff can come pop in and like multi-melt at you or whatever. And then going second, they're like, I run away, I guess, and then like lose a bunch of table space and get shit off. I know there was an army last year that saw a little bit of success that was Ultramarines plus Raven Guard that took Invictor Warsuits. Because Invictor Warsuits could play super far forward and then use the Ultramarines rapid redeployment to jump backwards. And so their whole army, like the gimmick was that like the whole army could forward deploy and then redeploy back into the deployment zone if it went second and hide. But I think, again, like its go first win rate was astronomical and its go second win rate was terrible. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's just kind of how you're doing playing Raven Guard. Dima rocketing with Kraken's pretty good. Yeah, I agree. But I don't know if you get like good turn 1 charges off of it, and it's gonna die in like 1 shooting phase. I guess you get like 1 CP transhuman for it, so it's like maybe not the end of the world. But if your opponent gives you like 5 tactical marines to charge, and you're like, hell yeah, opportunistic advance, onslaught, Kraken, or Demacaron, go, and he blows up like 5 tactical marines, and then your opponent's like, okay, I kill it. You're like, oh, okay, those 280 points to trade it for like with like CP and a stratagem, or say CP and a psychic power that killed 100 points of models. I don't know why my music went away. There it is. Nice, much better. Steve Pampering, you're in your April GT game right now? Oh, dude. I wish we'd, we could have streamed you. That's too bad. I would have streamed you guys. I bet that's interesting. The game looks like it would be sweet. What do I think the best Space Marine chapter now is with Armor of Contempt? Initial thought is Deathwing Terminators and Permanent Transhuman. I think that's probably going to be very good, but I think it's potentially suffers to mortal wounds. I think there's an argument for it to be Black Templars. Black Templars already have stuff that like kind of combos well with Armor of Contempt. So they can kind of push their survivability a little bit farther. And they have the movement shenanigans to take advantage of it, and they're more resilient to mortal wounds. Although, to be fair, Deathwing could take Lazarus and make a large amount of their army more resilient to mortal wounds. Because he gives them like a warded effect. I think there's also an argument for Salamanders, but I'd have to see. I have to see the Salamanders list, I think. Anthony made an all synapse psychic heavy 1,000 point list. Big question about synaptic link. If you daisy chain synaptic link, can the psychic power be denied even if the caster is out of range? No. You measure to the caster. You don't measure to the target. The synaptic link rule just tells you who you can target with the power. But the caster itself, the model making the psychic test, has to be within 24 inches to be denied. Like, you can, the synaptic link rule, like, might as well say, like, you can target an enemy unit within 60 inches of yourself with the spell. And if you were 60 inches away and from the enemy caster, they wouldn't be able to deny you anyway. Problem is that Black Templars is standing in the mirror. Not if the mirror is all Black Templars, then it's a 50-50. There you go. I could see them being sad in the mirror, though, yeah. Because, like, a lot of their defensive effects is against, like, big hits. And other Space Marines are like, here's a Lightning Claw, and you're like, damn it. He's like, aha, I can blank your las cannon attack. And the other Space Marine player's like, I don't care, man. Ironically, building a Salamanders list last 3 months. Did you pick up a good time for it? Yeah, Drew, absolutely, dude. Yeah. I'm mostly excited for Salamanders to, like, become not a meme anymore. I've always liked the idea of Salamanders, mostly because I like +1 to wounds effects. Anytime I can play, like, a +1 to wound strat, I'm, like, all in on it. So, Crucible of Battle is just one of my favorite things. Like, I played the shit out of some Chaos Space Marines in 8th edition, or even early 9th as well, to play Emperor's Children, like, gun bombs, basically, to really abuse veterans of the Long War. And now we have good old Salamanders doing it with Crucible of Battle again. So I hope they're good. I have a sneaking suspicion they might still be too slow and susceptible to mortal wounds, but we'll see. Like, they are very hard to kill. If you're not mortal wounding a Salamander's army, like, a lot of times I don't know how you kill them. They just live. They just hang out. Trevor Gonzalez painting Nids in a second Ed Colors game while watching me paint mine. Trevor, are we the same person? We have the same name. And we're painting the same army at the same time. Are we? And I don't think we've ever had a picture of us together. So are we just literally as the same human being? Incredible. I've made pretty intense progress on this paint job so far. I leave these guys like way too long in their base coated stage because I'm always like afraid that it will take too long for me to do all the green highlights. But not today.
If you like +1 to wound, can I interest you in some blue cowfish people? We can do it twice a turn.
Thanks for the super chat again. 3rd super chat. Damn, dude. So if you can see behind me, there's some blue cowfish people on the thing. Oh, that's the shine's got it a little bit. I'm pointing right there to it. There's a Charnath box. I got some Pathfinders in there. Oh, below the table, you can see there's like a whole Tau army full of unopened boxes yet. And then right up there are all my like 3D printed battlesuits and stuff. But you can't really see them because they're very small. So there's a whole Tau army over there. And now that they've been nerfed, I'm excited to play them. I want to play some Fishes of Fury, dude. I played Fishes of Fury back in 3rd edition and 4th edition, sorry. Maybe 5th. It was probably 5th, actually. And I friggin' had a great time. And I want to do that again. I like the Tau movement phase stuff. And I like short range shooting. I think, like, I always get excited when I can kill somebody in the shooting phase, but like from 12 inches away. It's never really fun shooting somebody from like a million inches away. I also think hammerheads are cool, and I kind of want to play them. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just watching my own stream, and I'm like live posting in the chat right now. Oh, Trevi, look at me. We're painting the same models. Amazing. Somehow I'm posting pictures of the model I'm like it's like Imgur links to the exact same model that's on stream right now being painted while I'm doing it on stream. That'd be fucking wild. Yeah. 6 Devilfish, 6 units of Breachers? Hell yeah, dude. I'll start with 3 and see where we go. I printed out way too many battle suits because I didn't want to play broadsides, So I printed out like a ton of Crisis battlesuits. And I was like, until broadsides get nerfed, I'll play these. And then I never got a chance to play them because broadsides got nerfed. So I was like, well, at least I just have a million Crisis battlesuits. But I really don't want to play like Farsight Enclaves. Because I think it's bad and stupid. Even though it might be the way to go. Yeah, I'm also giving myself super chats, yeah. I also govern Lyle's account too. That's correct, chat, yeah, for sure. Anthony Moniz use a custom high fleet with metallics. That's cool. Yeah, I've seen some Tyranid armies that use like metallic paints and especially color changing paints to get like an iridescent sort of carapace look, and I think those are very cool. I like them. This one started as as sort of high fleet Leviathan, but with green instead of purple, and kind of has morphed into its own thing, but it's mostly just that. So I go through, I do the base coats mostly for battle ready. So I do the base coats, and it looks like this basically. And then we do 2 layers of hatching on the green. So I do a light green like I'm doing on the Malicept right now, and then I do a bleached bone, a bone color. And then I go over the brown and make it all flesh tone. So it gets one layer, it gets the brown, the one layer of flesh tone, a wash, a second layer of flesh tone, and then a highlight. And then sometimes I'll do veins and stuff on it. And then with some freehand. And then I go back over the white and I do the white again. I pick out the highlights of the white and I'll shade the recesses in a black ink. And that's like where we get to the final version. And that's my favorite part, is that final stage, because it really makes them pop. But until then, we get to do hatching for ages and ages. I'll only play triple Storm Surge, waiting for them to nerf Tau. Yeah, we had some players in the Discord who were like, Tau's stupid. I'm gonna play triple Storm Surge to like make sure everyone knows how stupid it is. But it was like, well, we know. We're aware. We know what's up, dude. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. But to each their own. It is unfortunate though, because I do feel like, especially for competitive play, there's a real loss of energy lately because of how like broken everything's been. Everyone's been waiting for them to nerf the top factions for the longest time, and now it looks like Tyranids are just going to take the spot. And so I think, as exciting as right now should be, because the data slate was really good, right? Like it was can we talk about how good that was? I mean, I talked about it a little bit on Tuesday, but we saw almost there were nerfs for the top 3 factions, and almost everything else in the data slate was a buff. And like that's fucking cool as shit, dude. And like the buffs are really cool. They like nobody's like super broken now, but like a lot of armies have a new lease on life, and people are talking about playing Space Marines competitively again, and like that's so sick. But it just sucks that their Codex releases are so borked that Tyranids are just too good to like be introduced into this meta with Armor of Contempt Space Marines, and you're like, hey, check it out. My foot salamanders are going to fight you, and they're going to be, you can't reroll against them or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, my Harpy doesn't reroll wounds anyway. And it like 2 taps a Dreadnought, and Maliceptors do mortal wounds. So have fun with that, and you're just like, fucking god damn it. And I think it's just like sapped a lot of the energy from people, and it's really sucks. I know, personally, like, one of the reasons that, I think we had trouble today was that a lot of people did, like, there's a lot of people who don't really want to play right now, and that's too bad. And, there are, so sometimes it's there's trouble finding games, and that sucks. That is what it is. Lyle did podium a GT for the first time ever. Congratulations. I'm proud of you, buddy. What kind of playstyle and mechanics am I hoping for Leagues of Votann? Have I heard the rumor that some of them will be Men of Iron? I have heard that rumor. Because they did talk about how they use, like, heretical technologies, which is cool. It'd be cool if you know, there were, like, unique mechanics for Men of Iron. I don't know what they would do, though, right? Because, like, the idea is that it's sentient AI, so they're just regular people, basically. Who knows? What play style am I hoping for? It'll be interesting to see what they do, because, you know, you hope for something unique, right? But I think it feels to me like a lot of the design spaces that they could take over have kind of been done. You know, like, do you want them to be like the kind of short range, like close in, like, you know, kind of SWAT team kind of infantry, like ranged infantry feel? Because Tau do that and Deathwatch do that. Do you want them to be like a big, slow infantry brick? Because a million factions do that. I think we'd have to see more of what their, like, lineup looks like. I would hope that they're not just, like, a gun line, where they have a bunch of dudes with guns and they just shoot at you. But I think that, if anything, you know, whether or not they're good at actually, like, designing rules that are, like, functional, the GW design team has a lot of interesting ideas, and I think that they'll do something cool. How would I rein in Tyranids currently? And if I were Games Workshop, how would I prevent future codexes being insane? How would I rein in Tyranids? I think some stuff needs point increases, for sure. I think you could pump... You should pump Harpies 100%. You could pump a lot of the support stuff. Like... Venom Throbes probably should go up, like, 10 or 15% or something. They're just, like, too flexible right now. You could... I don't know if Maliceptors need to be changed, but I think you could pump their points. You could make them 200 points, and I think that the unit would still be, like, playable. I think Harpies should be 220, like, at least. I think you nerf Encircle the Prey. You either restrict its targeting... I like hesitate to, and I think I'm biased here, I hesitate to make it be like, oh, target infantry only or something, which is probably what it should be. But that, like, removes a lot of the fun synergies with it. But I think it absolutely should not be used on aircraft. And maybe you make it only use, like, each unit can only be targeted with it once per turn. You make the stratagem once per turn, and a unit can't be targeted with it more than once per game. And you can't target aircraft with it. I think that would help a lot. So those are the big things I would do. And then, like, generically, you could, like, up some random stuff. Like, if you pump Tyranid Warriors by, like, 5 points a unit or something, or, like, 1 point a model or 2 points a model, you start cutting a lot of random, like, points out of the list wholesale, because they're the best infantry unit. And then I would include, like, maybe a points cut to Termagants or something. The big upside of Warriors is that they fill your troop slot and they shoot a gun at you. So they have, like, this ancillary damage value that they inflict on top of filling your Force Arc requirements. But if you make it so that, like, Warriors are more expensive and Termagants are cheaper, then you're incentivized to take Termagants, which are shitty and don't do damage but are cheaper. Which means, like, the army as a whole does less damage in general, but just has, like, slightly higher model count. I think that would be, those would be the big changes I would make. Mostly points and nerfing Encircle, I think. From a personal standpoint, I would also stop Tyrannicides from deep striking turn 1, but that's because I'm biased and I hate turn 1 deep strikes and I think they're shitty. But whatever. That one's not my call to make. How would I rein in Tyranids, though? Or how would I rein in future releases? That one's tougher. I mean, you just need a more, like, exhaustive playtest system. And I think the problem right now is, at least anecdotally, is that a lot of these releases are playtested independently of one another. So, like, you don't get a holistic view. Like, there's no Future League, which is a component of Magic the Gathering development, where they just have a bunch of, like, former professional players, and they're like, hey, here are all the sets for the next, 3 years. Tell us what the format's gonna be. And then they just theory craft decks using those sets to make sure that they balance past them. And, like, GW just needs that. So that, like, you can have not only things that are balanced against each other, but also balanced against, like, the current iteration of that other codex. And you need people who are, like, I don't know, you need, like, experts from different factions, but also, like, that are reasonable. Because I think, a big problem right now is that a lot of the people who are nominally playtesters are also competitive players. So there's a conflict of interest between them playtesting at all, right? Because they get early access to rules. So they can build and prep armies before anyone else can. So a lot of these people who are playtesters and do really well in tournaments, there's a correlation there. But then also those people are oftentimes, like, biased towards an army or something, which means that they're incentivized to try to make their own armies more better. And I think the rumor in the grapevine is that was why Custodes got a points break immediately on release, was that late feedback from the playtesters who are also, like, maybe giving some bad advice, said that the Codex would not be good by itself. And they were wrong. The Codex is really powerful. Almost done with all the green, chat. That's exciting. Hear me out. Encircle the prey and move to end of morale phase. I mean, that's fine. That makes it once per turn. That's easy. Make aircraft not work. Done. I think you could limit its targeting further. And I wouldn't be shocked to see it move to a once per game ability. Like Emperor's Auspice. Where you're just like, once per game, you get one. And I think, I honestly, given that was how they addressed the Custodes stratagems, I have to imagine that that's how they're going to do it for Encircle. I would rather see them say once per turn, no aircraft, but I feel like that's not what they're going to do. Although, to be fair, it's a less of a hit for that stratagem to be once per turn than for Emperor's Auspice to be once per turn. You oftentimes, I think, only need one Encircle the Prey, to be fair. And I wonder if you just, like, if it ends up at that point becoming, like, Hive Tyrant only. If Harpies got, like, increased in cost and you could only encircle once per game, would I take 2 Harpies? I don't know. Because I want my Hive Tyrants to survive. What do I think of Black Templars? We just talked about Black Templars. I think Black Templars are good. In terms of Space Marine armies, I think they're one of the better ones at the moment, post Armor of Contempt update. All right. Let's see how far we get with this bone hatching here, chat. And then we'll see where we stand. I'm also interested to see how my Twitter poll went. I could go take a look, actually. Are Black Templars the best Space Marine faction? I think that there's an argument for that. I think we have to kind of see how things lie before we determine the best Space Marine faction, but I think there's definitely the potential for that to be the case. So I see if I can put it on stream here. So I made a Twitter poll this morning, chat. Ooh, there's 17 hours left. I guess it wasn't technically this morning, it was this afternoon. About what to play this weekend. So I have 2 Harpies that are almost ready to go. Here's one of them. He's on the screen, but you can't see him because he's underneath the thing now. I'll put him in the camera. Hello, I'm a Harpy. Rah. I don't know. I don't really want to play them, though, to be fair, because I think they're broken. So I made a Twitter poll on what I should play. Currently, Harpies are winning. So go follow me on Twitter if you want me to change my mind there. I'll be talking about my games on Tactical Tuesday next week. But I'm kind of hoping that people tell me to play Carnifexes. So I can, like, play more of a balanced army. A fun and interesting army. I'm sad to see that the Harpies have lost a little bit of their lead so far, but for a while they were like dramatically in the lead. I was a little bit sad about that. Thoughts on Death Guard with the new changes? Are they good again? Death Guard are so tough because they're much better than they were, right? Like, I think the changes helped them significantly, and maybe more than any other single faction, because they were already, like, so far down in the dumps. But they're so slow still, and it just makes it super tough to play them. You know, they're good. They're much better when they get to their place on the table that they want to get to, but nothing changed that would help them get there. So, like, and the, you know, as they've gotten that change, the meta game that they're going into is also, I think, going to be more hostile to them, because with everything being like, hey, I have Armor of Contempt, like, small AP is nothing to me. You're like, okay, well, I'll take big AP or mortal wounds, and Death Guard are like, please don't. Don't do either of those, s'il vous plaît. So, like, you know, I'm a rock up. I'm going to have some Maliceptors in my list. I don't know how Death Guard deals with that. They just die. I think a lot of factions are building similar, with similar design ethos in mind. Especially if Death Guard are going to be relying on, like, these like, bricks of Terminators, and they're like, I'm a bunch of big Terminators, look at me go. And then, you know, other players like, well, here's some D cannons with full rerolls or whatever, and you're like, well, it's good fun, nice while it lasted. So I don't know. I think Death Guard, I do think that they, like, move solidly up to, like, mid tier. My heart goes out to, like, the Gene Stealer Cult players or whatever that, like, now they got nothing and now have to fight into Armor of Contempt. Feels bad, man. Gorgeous hatching on that guy. Good stuff. Harpies were so bad for so long. Want to hear about them doing well? Were they bad? I think the funny thing about Harpies was that they were I'm not gonna say that they were, like, very good, but they were playable in Crusher Stampede, because they held objectives and counted as multiple models and could breaking through. And so they got this big buff in the Codex, in the updated Codex, but people were already playing them. So, like, they just got, like, double buffed, essentially, which is very strange. I played Harpies, chat. I played a Harpy with Harry Dan, alright? Several times I played that Harpy and Harry Dan list. I never, personally, I never really liked Harpies, though. But people were already playing them. So, like, talking to people now, and they're like, oh, man, I heard Harpies are really good, but I can't buy them anywhere. And you're like, yeah, because they were being purchased for the last, like, million years, essentially. Like, for the last 3 months, people have been, like, buying up every Harpy that's available to play them in Crusher Stampede. And now they're even better, and there's even more demand for them. But yeah, like I said, I never really liked them in Crusher Stampede. They didn't do any damage, which is a little bit awkward. For 160 or 170 points, you want to deal damage in that list. I liked my Moloch though. Moloch was pretty okay. He's not as good at taking objectives as a Harpy was, but he was cheaper. That's a big deal. So I think Acid Fexes and Chronos are a viable competitive pick. Yeah, we talked about that earlier today. Yeah, I think that they are. Drew, waiting a while since you're still adding to the Salamanders list. Torn between Ynnari or Genestealer call for my next army. Oh my god. That is a darned if you do, darned if you don't choice there, Drew, I think. I would say Genestealer cult right now. I don't know. So I think Ynnari have, if I remember correctly, and somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Ynnari still have, like, mechanical problems with the keyword. Where they lose access to a bunch of stuff by accident, and I don't remember off the top of my head what the issue is. But I'm sure someone could correct me. But yeah, Ynnari's like sort of tough. You could, I mean, just like regular Craft World Eldar is pretty good, I think. But I'm not sure about Ynnari. Ynnari probably plays more straightforward than Genestealer Cult, to be fair. Like, GSC are all about, like, sort of odd combos and deep strike plays and stuff. Whereas Eldari are about, and Ynnari specifically, are about, like, piece trading. And you just have to learn how to use the Incarn really well. But, again, both of them are going to be, like, super lightly armored, super tough to play, so... if you're, like, very new to 40k, I'm not sure if I would start with those armies. They are very difficult. And also, currently, not particularly amazing. How difficult is 3D printing, and I'm enjoying it? I don't know how much you can say that you enjoy 3D printing, because it's not like... It's not like an activity, it's just sort of a thing that happens. It's like asking somebody if they enjoy 2D printing, and you're like, I don't know, I like it when I press the button and the paper comes out with the picture on it. That's fun. But, like, you know, it's kind of messy and time-consuming. But I like that I have a bunch of models that I've 3D printed with them. My favorite part about 3D printing right now is just, like, finding cool models on the internet that I can create. So I posted it in the painting modeling in section in the Discord. ! Discord in the chat, by the way, if you're not in there. Come hang out with us. And I printed a Marvel Crisis Protocol mini for Black Widow because I don't like the stock one because it's objectively bad. And I was really happy with it, and that got me kind of excited. And, like, it's the same thing. Like, it feels kind of liberating not being shackled to the, like, whatever the stock model for any particular thing is. So, like, I have a Song of Ice and Fire unit that's, like, a bunch of spearmen. But the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures, especially for spears, are kind of hokey because they're very small. And I'm gonna print out, like, some, like, historical Greek hoplites for them, and it's gonna be cool. And I'm excited for that because it's gonna look more of like a cohesive unit. And I'm just excited to be able to, like, find cool proxies and kind of execute my vision. of what my models should look like, rather than being beholden to whatever it comes in the box. And that's probably the most exciting part about it. The act of printing is kind of a chore, but the part where you get the printed model and you paint it is fucking awesome. Do I think big bugs like Hyrules and Demacrons will get updated? They will at some point, but as someone pointed out to me last weekend, the Eldar Forge world has still not been updated. And so it seems to me like these updates are very far behind, despite the fact that every other faction has gotten their IAC entries updated after they were released. It looks like the more recent stuff might have to wait a little bit. And that sucks, but it is what it is. So, right now, I mean, you just don't play those guys, I guess. I would hope that they would kind of change mechanically a little bit. I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, Hyrules are kind of poopy. And Dimacrons as well. Dimacrons maybe especially, without Crusher Stampede. The Crusher Stampede was kind of felt like it was designed for them to some extent. And I was like, man, these monsters are way worse without Crusher Stampede, and they're very expensive, and they're 18 wounds, and it's all kind of bad. But I was like, what if they just get the Carnifex -1 damage roll built in? Like, if they could make one mechanical change that made the unit better, I think that would be cool. They're like, oh, you bought an expensive Forge World model? Here you go. Here's a little buff. You can have -1 damage. And I think Hyrules, without all of the ancillary Crusher Stampede benefits, holding objectives better and having a built-in invuln save and extra damage and psychic powers and stuff like that, I think in the new Codex they would be very playable if they had -1 damage built in. I don't know if they would be broken, and I don't even know if they would compete with like Maliceptors and stuff, but I think they would be a competitive pick. And that's all you can ask for Forge World. But again, it looks like those changes are being delayed longer and longer, so I wouldn't like hold my breath for them. They also they break a lot of stuff because they don't have the Hive Tendril keyword, so they break a lot of your like special army abilities and stuff, which sucks. But it is what it is. So I think Custodes got hit too hard with the data slate. Honestly, not really. I think Custodes players are just whiny. Like, this is the same community that whined when the Codex came out because they didn't have 3+ invulnerable saves anymore, and they thought that they couldn't compete. And then it turned out they had the most broken Codex, like, in the history of the edition. So, like, I don't know. Maybe play some games with it. I mean, they're significantly worse than they were, but like I said on Tuesday, the goal of the datasheets wasn't to make, you, like, still broken but less, or, like, still highly competitive but less broken. It was to bring everyone to a 50-50. And I think, Custodes, they tried harder to do that, but I think that if you consider them holistically alongside the rest of 40k, Custodes are in a fine place. They're just like, oh, they don't like automatically beat, every faction and are unkillable to stuff that rerolls or whatever anymore, so the faction's garbage. I'm like, I don't know, get over yourself. Custodes are fine. So I think there's any justification for Flyrant having a Venom Cannon instead of going full melee? No. I think you want the melee. The benefit of the Flyrant is that he has a fast speed. And if you aren't taking a melee loadout, you're not, like, I guess the question is, what's more valuable to you? Is it 17-inch move, or is it a 2+ ballistic skill? Because let me tell you, 17-inch move is not something that happens very often in the game of 40k. And when it does, you want to put it, you want you know, utilize that platform for something that's going to be using that 17-inch move to the most effect. And that is something that has like a huge, sick melee attack and overruns it every turn. And if you put a gun on him, he doesn't do that. So he just flies around with his gun a little bit. Like, I don't know. He has 7 1-damage melee attacks, which is not gonna kill anything. Lyle been 3D printing like crazy to make Tau underwater themes. Dude, that's super sick. I love that. I think, I might have talked about this on a painting stream previously, but when I was coming up with a color scheme for my Tau, we talked about doing like a Russian naval scheme, which is like a dark navy blue and aquamarine. Like aquamarine on the bottom sides of things, obviously, so that it blends in when you look up from underwater. It's kind of a submarine scheme, and I really liked the idea. I think I might do just a sort of desert theme, but I think like the underwater theme Tau was super awesome, and they definitely fit the look very well too. It's unique as well, and it's like there's really good options for basing and stuff. You could use like I saw an army that had those. You know, you can buy static grass tufts, and there was an army that used bright purple ones, and I was like, wow, this would be cool as a component to an underwater scheme, basing scheme. Oof. Look at us go, dude. We're killing it right now. At least Hyrule don't have the Titanic keyword, so they can give them Dermic Symbiosis. I guess. Titanic would let them fall back and shoot, though. And then you could Tyrant Imperative to fall back and charge. So Titanic keyword actually would be kind of sick on them. Like I don't even know how often you Dermic Symbiose them. I guess it depends. We got a Maliceptor today, chat. Is what we're working on right now. A Maliceptor. We got a little hobby hangout going on in lieu of a Throwdown Thursday, because unfortunately, my Throwdown Thursday players bailed. So unfortunate. We also, to be fair, to my locals, there's a team tournament this weekend. That's like one state over, basically, and a lot of them, because we tend to draw from the competitive scene in my area. A lot of them are on teams for the team tournament, so they're either prepping or on their way to that tomorrow, or this evening. So they may not be ready. Or they weren't around to play today. So we should be back in operation next week. Speaking of water, I always thought it'd be fun if there was a river or lake that affected movement. I needed a bridge to cross or did mortal wounds. Yeah, that would be cool. I know, I used to have like a whole, I think I donated it to my local shop, but I used to run, I had a river set from Pegasus Hobbies with bridges and stuff. And, bridges certainly make for interesting terrain features on a board. Because they always become kind of in and of themselves, they become kind of an objective. If you're restricting movement on anywhere but the bridge becomes a important terrain feature. Plus, I don't know, bridge battles always look cool. Just from a visual standpoint. What's my go-to kit out for Carnifexes? It's either Screamer Killers with adrenal glands, or I think there's an argument for like a 1 Venom Cannon Enhanced Senses guy. Like a regular Carnifex, heavy Venom Cannon, Enhanced Senses, set of Scything Talons. But they're kind of expensive. Screamer Killers are so cheap. They're just little nuclear missiles you send to people, and I love them. So I like those guys. Half Lotus thinks Molochs are better than they get credit for. Yeah, dude. No, I'm with you. I played one a couple weeks ago. In a, it was a Behemoth. It was Behemoth, right? It was Behemoth Carnifex list. It was 5 Carnifexes and a Moloch, I think, is where we ended up at. But the fact that you can give the Moloch objective secured and then drop it onto an objective is kind of nuts. Because you can give it OBSEC with the sub-faction ability, so it doesn't matter whether or not it's on the table. And then, like, that list also gave OBSEC to all of the Carnifexes, too. So you just had, like, this, just a big old brick of monsters running at your opponent. I think that list was sick, to be honest. Toxicreens are great. It's just hard to put them on the board. You're not wrong. They're so... they're just too big. I like the Toxicrin strat. Like, I think that's cool, and it gives, like, cool use cases to the model. I kind of like that the Toxicrin's place in the ecosystem of the Codex is that they're just like, we're the guy that does weird stuff. And you're like, what does that entail? And they're like, I don't know. It's just a bunch of, like, bizarre utility abilities that all kind of come together to randomly make a pretty good unit. Because they're like, I have an offensive -1 aura and an anti-charge strat and like I charge far, and I'm good against like high toughness infantry. You're like, those are all like, you know, very specific niches. And he's like, yeah, but I have like 7 of them. And you're like, oh, okay, I understand Toxicrene, thank you. Plus he's 15 wounder with T8, so he's tough to kill. I kind of like that. I think Toxicrin's kind of sweet. I don't think it's... Like, the problem is that it competes directly with, like, Maliceptors and Haruspexes and stuff. And I think it's just worse than those. Because it requires more babysitting, but... There's going to be a situation where, like, we're going to see a GT get one with, like, double Toxicrene or something. And people are going to be like, what does this thing do? And you're like, oh, a half dozen random annoying things. Like, it also stops fallbacks, right? Like, like sometimes it's gonna hit a Tau army or something, right? And he's gonna deep strike with a drop pod. Like you can like Dermic or do the Synapse upgrade on the Toxicrin, and then the Toxicrin deep strikes out of a drop pod in Chronos and shoots someone, and then Shard Lure and like does the entangling snare on them. So he's +2 to charge, roll 3d6, drop the lowest. Like, agnostic of other units in your army, it's only the Toxicrin. And he charges and like side swipes with his big weird base and touches like a bunch of models, and then like 4+ like keeps him in melee, and they can't fall back and they can't shoot him. And then he like Sporecasters or something and like gets stuck at melee with a -1 to hit on their whole army, and you're just like, what is this thing? Like, why is it beating me? So, like, I don't know. There's gonna be a situation where that happens, and it's gonna be awesome. Tau might be its best matchup. Is that weird? That's weird, right? What is the best Hive Tyrant loadout? Well, I have a whole video about Hive Tyrant loadouts. Moncon. So I would recommend you go take that one. Check a look at that. I think it's literally called Best Hive Tyrant Loadout. So there you go. Working on a list, would love to hear my opinion. Obliterax Flyrant, 2 Neurothrope, 1 has Barb, 3 X3 Warriors, 3 Maliceptor. 2 times 3 zoanthropes. Did I play this list? No, not quite. So I played something similar to this. I played 3 zoanthropes, 2 maliceptors, double neurothrope, and I think I played double flyrant also. So instead of the exocrine, I had another hive tyrant basically. And then I had a tyrannocyte. I think you want between 1 and 2 tyrannocytes in that kind of list. I think what you end up finding is that because all your damage gets done, besides the exocrine obviously, in this like really concentrated bubble, because you have 2 units of zoanthropes, 3 maliceptors. So the maliceptors shoot things within 12, the zoanthropes shoot things within 18, and then everything charges, right? So you're like, I killed everything in the front of my opponent's army, and then I charged everything also that survived somehow. And then your opponent's like, okay, but what if the rest of my army was like slightly farther back than that? And you're like, oh no, I didn't do anything. Like, what have I done? So the problem is that that list lacks reach, I guess. So I would put tyrannocytes in it so you have more control over what gets hit by your stuff. I don't think you need the Carnifexes, to be honest. Especially because like you don't have a lot of support for them, so they're just kind of guys, and that's fine. But I don't know if I would take Carnifexes in that list. They want to do the same thing that the Maliceptors do, which is like run up and then shoot something that's kind of near you. Except you can't, like if the Maliceptors have killed your opponent's stuff in the psychic phase, you can't charge them because they're dead. So they end up competing with each other, which is unfortunate. But I think the psychic choir sort of list is pretty good, to be fair. Half Lotus, GSC should soup nids because it's worse than pure nids, but better than pure GSC. Is it better than pure GSC? I mean, I guess so. Like, Harpies are just, like, better than everything in the GSC Codex. Which is so sad. So, I guess, yeah. Harpies plus GSC is actually probably a pretty good, if you take, like... You lose Hive Fleet adaptations if you soup. But if you just take, like, a Brick of Warriors and, like, double Harpy and, like, a Flyrant or something, then you have this, like, this big kind of, a big frontline unit that you can rely on. You can kind of anchor your GSC plan around. Plus, you get aircraft, which GSC don't really have. So maybe that's fine. It used to be that, like, the Forces of the Hive Mind list was really good because GSC gave Tyranids, like, these little light infantry that were better than anything Tyranids had in the same, like, slot. Like, Tyranid infantry was really good, but it wasn't as good as Acolyte hybrids. And GSC had no guns to speak of, so Tyranids could bring Exocrines and Hive Guard, which is a big deal. But now that Tyranids don't have guns, their guns aren't as good anymore. You're not that worried about it. You could maybe still bring Exocrines as like a backline gun thing for GSC. That's probably okay. It's not artillery, though, which is kind of problematic. T-Bone barely had 2k soup of GSC and NIDS, now needs an overhaul. Yeah. If you were building off a Hive Guard brick, I'm sorry. I feel worse for the GSC players with the Hive Guard nerf than I do for Tyranid players. Because, like, Tyranids, like, you could probably play without Hive Guard and it would have been okay. And especially now, because all their stuff is good. But GSC was like, well, no, we needed those guys. What are you doing? That was our gun. We had one gun. It was Hive Guard. Just let GSC play like original release Tyranids, and then it'll be fine. GSC can play like a selection of Tyranid units. They can play old Gene Stealers, old Hive Guard, and like the old Neurathrope with Chapter Master or whatever. But they still have to use the new indirect fire rules. So they still have to be like -1 ballistic skill and stuff. No Maliceptor Focal Essence though, that's too far. And you'd probably still take them. Oh, you were running 6 Hive Guard? Yeah. I'm sorry. It's like something Sins of the Father, right? Like, GSC get punished for the Star Gods, like, transgression against the balance of 40k. It's like, your artillery is too strong, Tyranids. Like, you will be punished. Alright, I'm gonna finish this, this bone hatching chant, and then we're gonna call it a stream. This has been fun, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Again, if you're not on my Twitch, go ahead and check out my Twitch. Like I said, there's a link in the description of every single video that I do. It's also, it's just twitch.tv/TacticalTortoise. We hang out like this all the time. I'm constantly on the stream every weekday that I'm not live on YouTube. And it's a good old time. We have a great time. GSC in an army of renown? 100%. They were like kept live in 9th edition or in 8th edition, excuse me, because they got a specialist detachment that was really good. Why did I take green out? What am I doing in my life? I'm doing not green right now. Yeah, I don't need this color. He's got like he's got this little carapace bit down here. I can't really even see it. There it is. But it's really hard to reach, so I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's so deep in there. All right, here we go. All right, Scything Talons, be prepared. Y'all are about to get highlighted.
I love how armies are reflections of their lore in modern codexes. Like GSC is both worst Guard and worst Tyranids simultaneously.
Lyle, thanks for the super chat again, man. Yeah, what other comparisons are there like that? I mean, Space Marines are all just worse custodians, right? Which makes sense. Eldar are worse Harlequins. There you go. Harlequins are like strictly better than Drukhari. Like witch cults are like, guys, we're here, we're the acrobatic elf warriors, and Harlequins are like, hold my beer. Drew Lytle? Me and Dice Check are your main YouTube 40k sources. Well, thank you. So, I'm actually, I think I'm gonna start a new. Oh no, I did forget a green bit. I didn't do the highlighting on this side of the Scything Talon. Fuck. God damn. All right, well, we gotta finish that, I guess. I do want to do a new series that is keyed a little bit toward, more towards newer players. Because those videos tend to be, more evergreen, right? And I want to do a series on, like, basic tactics. So less, I have videos on how to play, right? Where, like, you can just watch the video and I'll tell you how to play. But I want to do videos on, like, or more in-depth videos, I guess, on, like, target selection and, like, using, like, heroic interventions and stuff like that. So we have advanced tactics for YouTube members and patrons, which is like more hardcore stuff, which gets really into it. But what I want to do is kind of cover some of the really basic stuff, like, how you determine what order you should attack in and how you determine, like, where you should pile in and consolidate and stuff like that. So I'm thinking of starting a new series like that where I just cover a bunch of those really basic things. Then it'll be short videos, maybe 5-minute videos. But if people are interested in that, I'm much more motivated to make videos if people like request them a lot. So if y'all go into my comment sections and just start dropping video requests, then I will be much more. It'll be on my radar at least, and I'll be much more inclined to get a move on it. Oh, I forgot a lot of green on this Scything Talon here. All right, we're gonna have to take care of that. Look at this guy coming along pretty good. Ben, the idea of being a 2D printing enthusiast keeps making you chuckle. Whoa, look! It's a picture! Yeah, like imagine being like really snobby about how like what color, you know, ink you use in your like HP printer or whatever. It is kind of funny how, I guess it's like, it's understandable because of like how impressive the technology is, but it is kind of funny how much being a 3D printing enthusiast has like become part of people's identity. T-Bone would be cool if they had a supplement to combine Hive, Tendril, and Cult keywords to come up with a blended faction. I agree. I know that they've been trying to remove souping, and honestly, like, I don't dislike the idea of toning down souping in 40k, but on the flip side, it's, you know, it is nice to have sometimes. I kind of wish that, like, I guess like you said, they would have a codex. Like if they wanted to do a soup option, they would have like a separate rule set for it, where like you can take, this army gets like Genestealer cult and Tyranid stuff, but it's like a selection of data sheets, and maybe the data sheets are different, like they have slightly different mechanics on them, and they have like their own sets of stratagems, so it's not literally just a soup army. Like they're much more curated about it. Kind of like how pure strength Genestealers and regular Genestealers are dramatically different mechanically. I think that would be cool. Because I do think that like problems arise in souping. And part of the issue is that like it makes the game so much more complex, and it introduces all these problems that the GW team like is clearly not prepared to handle. And they could just sidestep those issues pretty easily, I think. Chaos is worse, Dark Angels. Hey, we did the thing! Dark Angels are Chaos Space Marines. Got 'em! Got 'em. I'm glad that joke's never been made before. So good job, chat. You're the best. Yeah, I definitely. I mean, like, painting the stuff that's on the bottom of the Maleceptor chat, like going back to this little piece of the carapace that I can't really reach very well, is definitely more for me than it is my opponents or the look of the game. Because no one will be able to see that. You're never going to, like, take a photo and have that show up. But I'll know it's not highlighted. I'll know. Yeah, it is funny that the Fallen didn't get Army of Contempt chat. I agree. I did laugh when somebody told me that. It's like, oh, Fallen. You silly redheaded stepchildren of the entire game of 40k. Like, they just exist to give Dark Angels, like, flavorful stratagems to use against them, right? That's the only reason. I do kind of wish Cypher was, like, a cool and playable, like, agent character. Like, he should get Agent of the Imperium and Agent of Chaos. And then have, like, a cool support ability or something. That'd be cool, right? Look at those tiny highlights go, chat. Feels good, man. Wish Rogue Traders were a full-on faction? Yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, I kind of like that Star Striders got released, like, just as a faction to, like, expand sort of the universe of the game a little bit. But I do want to commend Games Workshop for really throwing their weight behind Necromunda. Because I think more so than almost anything else they've done in recent memory, and this includes, you know, books and Warhammer Plus shows and all that stuff. I think the Necromunda, the more recent Necromunda releases, where they're like, their bikes and transport trucks and, you know, regular, like literally just regular humans, basically, has done more to sort of flesh out 40k as a universe and make it kind of believable and livable than almost anything else. Because, like, I can look at a Space Marine and be like, well, that's a Space Marine, you know, and I kind of, I understand, like, realistically, like, the universe it's supposed to live in. But on the tabletop, you never really got the sense that 40k was anything more than a game. But now if I'm seeing, like, trucks with these containers and there's, like, an infrastructure involved, and I can tell, you know, like, you know, thought went into how these things, you know, all kind of mesh together in some sort of transportation network. And then there's those, like, the Dune bandits that you need to mount guns onto the containers to defend against. Like, suddenly there's a reason that your weird shipping crates have guns on the top. It makes the universe feel so much more lived in, and I think that's super cool. And as someone who's generically not, like, a huge fluff nut, a fluffer nutter, if you will, from the outside looking in, that makes the background of 40k seem much more interesting than it has been. Matthew Nurgle in chat, dude. What's up, man? How's it going? We're just doing some painting. Unfortunately, our Throwdown Thursday, our usual bat rep, got canceled last minute, and I couldn't find any replacements, so we are just chilling and painting this Maliceptor, and he's almost done with his Carapace. Look at how good this guy looks right now. We gotta finish the brains, and then we gotta do highlighting and all that stuff. There's a little bit more work to do in the base. I gotta do some more work on the rocks and things, but it is a solid tabletop playable quality right now, if I do say so myself. That's not what I want to do. Zach printed 2 Maliceptors this week. Pumped to play them? Yeah, man. I think I'm biased because of how much I like the combo play, but I think Maliceptors are super rad. I also enjoy dealing mortal wounds. I'm like a weirdo like that. I know, you know, maybe it's a... Well, I don't like... You know, my factions, like, Tyranids in general, tends to... At least now, they have good defensive profiles, so taking mortal wounds isn't great for them. But, you know, just being able to be like, I inflict damage, and there's no more like rolls involved. It just happens. As someone who I guess it's maybe because I'm very variance phobic, I guess. I'm like, oh man, I hate it when I like roll these things and my opponent gets a 6-up save. He might make all of them. Oh my god. And mortal wounds are just like, no. You just take the damage. It just happens. And I think that makes me happy. So I like mortal wounds, and I like combos. And the Maleceptor is just the platonic ideal of both of those things. And I'm still not great at using them. I think it's my... Like, mea culpa, I still kind of mess up my synaptic imperative ordering so that I get the best use out of them. It's one of the reasons I've kind of enjoyed having multiple. Because if I have one drop Maleceptor and then like 1 or 2 on the ground, then I can pick Maleceptor imperative early. And then the drop Maleceptor can execute almost the full combo from wherever the table it is. And that's fun. Yeah, the Maleceptor is providing support also. Like support to the to your scoring, like you're saying, chat, where they're like let you do actions and stuff, is also helpful. All right, one more spike to do, chat, and then we'll be done with this last layer of highlighting here. So good, chat. Look at that. Well, that is a sort of, we'll call it halfway painted Maleceptor, I guess. The browns need to be turned into a flesh tone at some point, but right now we're a nice Maleceptor. What white am I using? So it's not a white, it's a bone color. This one is base Wraithbone. There you go. Citadel color right there. I'm a plebeian, so I use the Citadel paints because I'm a weirdo. So a little bit of a long ways to go on this guy, I will say, because we got to go back over, do the white, we got to do highlights and washes in the recesses, and we have to do all the brown bits, and we have to do more work on the base. But I think this was a pretty effective day of painting. So thanks everyone for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. Lyle, thanks for all the super chats, man. I really appreciate that too. Stay tuned tomorrow. I should have the aforementioned stratagem breakdown for Tyranids on the thing. What do you call it? On YouTube tomorrow. That'll premiere. Probably at the normal time. I think, well, I'll try to do it sort of noonish tomorrow, I think. But I'll post a link up both in the Discord and on the community tab when that gets posted. If you're a patron, stay tuned for that coming tonight. So that's going to be good. That'll probably be about like 35 minutes of talking about stratagem. So it's going to be freaking awesome. Well, the brains are going to get like a million layers on them. They are not even close to done. This is just the base color I use, but then we do kind of like the wings here. The wings are kind of the flesh tone I'd use. So we do a base on top of them like this, and then we wash it, do a highlight, and then do a second layer of highlights, and then do some freehand on top. So these are This is very much just a get 10 points for being for being battle ready paint job. So we're still working. Don't worry. Don't you worry, chat. Maliceptor is gonna get some. We're gonna get on an episode of Pimp My Maliceptor anytime. Other than that, I'm gonna be playing this guy for sure at an RTT this weekend. Like I said, we'll see if anybody has voted on my Twitter poll here. Let's give it a refresh. Let's see what we got. It's 48% for playing double Harpy this weekend. I'm gonna be playing Tyranids this weekend in a local event, and I'll be talking about that on Tactical Tuesday next week. So if you want to have an input in what I play this weekend, you can hit me up over on Twitter, and I have a Twitter poll there where I'm asking if I should play 2 Harpies. And right now the Harpies are winning. I don't know if I want to play 2 Harpies though, chat, because they're busted and it's lame. So get in there and vote them down. Vote down the Harpies. Tell me to play Carnifexes. Anyway, thanks everyone for hanging out with me. I'll be live on Twitch tomorrow, and I'll be live again on Monday as well. Follow me on Twitch if you haven't yet. But otherwise, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled Tactical Tortoising on the YouTube next week, so that'll be good. Anyway, cheers everybody. We'll go ahead and sign off. Remember to keep it classy.